What up, pilots? Let's talk about the manual engine control and trimming of a P51. This is going to be for most of the Mustangs. The manual engine control is pretty much the same thing across all the Mustangs except the P51H. The only difference is the P51H doesn't have oil radiator, but everything else will be the same value. So let's go ahead and start the engine. Turn our engine to manual. Magneto 1 plus 2. Radiators open about 80%, 70-80%. No mixture control. Propeller pitch 90%. So with the P51H, all the Mustangs are going to have the same value as that, except the P51H does not have this value here. Does not have oil radiator. The bottom center left screen at the bottom does not have oil radiator, but everything else will be the same. So radiator 80, Magneto 1 plus 2, mixed. No, it's not going to have mixture, and then prop pitch 90. So when it comes to inline piston engine aircraft, like the P51, Yak, Key 61, 109, Spitfire, inline engine, G55, C202, C205, P38, P63, inline engine aircraft. It's liquid cooled, so it's cooled by water and not air. It's not a radial. So you'll want your radiators to be a little higher than radial engine aircraft, like a P-47 or a Corsair or a Focke-Wulf or Key 100, LA5, a Zero, things like that. Those are radials. So, anyways, so the P51, the Mustangs, have what's called the Meredith effect. And normally, in an inline engine aircraft, you'd want to run about 40 to 50%, sometimes 60% in your radiators, depending on if it's getting hot and it's starting to overheat your engine or not. But since the P51 has the Meredith effect, and it's one of the inline piston engine aircraft that's most known for the Meredith effect, you'll want your radiators open a little bit more, say 70-80%, because cold air gets sucked into the radiator intake right there, and then it gets pushed through into the engine bay, cools the engine down a bit. That engine turns the air hot, and then that hot air gets shot right back out the rear end of the radiator, which adds a little bit of thrust. That's the Meredith effect. Mustangs are known for it the most. The Lag 3 is also known for it, and the Yak series is also known for it as well. Not as much as the Mustangs, but the Martin Baker 5 as well is also known for it. Key 61 and G55, C202, C205. They kind of have it too, but nowhere near as much as the Mustang has. So there's that quick little info there. So anyway, let's go ahead and start rolling, and then we'll talk about trimming, and that's the manual engine control on Mustangs. So with all the Mustangs except the D model and the H model are going to be slightly heavy in the nose on takeoff and landing, so you want to correct that. Gear up, flaps up. Go ahead and start trimming here for climb. Now in a P51 or in a Mustang, you don't need to save the trim in the test flight. Alright, normally, like say in a Spitfire or a 109 or like a Yak or something, or a Key 61, you'd want to take the aircraft to cruising speed at about cruising altitude and trim the aircraft out and then save it in a test flight, which is what we're in. Top left says test flight. However, American aircraft, you do not need to do that unless it's a P-63. It's the only American aircraft you need to do it in. Fighter, I should say. Fighter interceptor. The P-63 is the only American plane that you'll need to do that in. But you have trim in the actual match, full trim, too. So there's no reason to do that. So you can just trim on the fly. We're starting to overheat here. Let's throttle down a bit. You'll want to climb to, say, about 12,000, give or take, in a P-51. You don't have to climb that high if there's nothing that high, but you always want to try to have the altitude advantage and the speed advantage in the P-51. You also want to climb at a little over 200 knots, because you're able to roll over, check you have enough speed to maneuver still, so you can roll over and check your 6 as needed. Be smooth with the controls as well. Don't be doing a bunch of this while trying to climb up. Be smooth. The smoother you are, the more speed you'll retain. Speed is key. Alright, we're at 82. We're at 8,200 feet. That should be fine. So now that we're at altitude, we're going to zero our trim. And we're going to trim it for our cruising speed now, not our climbing. And we're still checking our 6, making sure we're not getting jumped at the same time. It's going to be about +2 rudder and about +4 or 5 elevator, give or take. Oh, no wonder why. There we go. That's why we're overheating. I had it in auto. Now we're not going to overheat. Perfect. Okay. Mustangs tend to overheat when you leave the manual engine, and the engine controls an automatic, which is what I had the radiators in, as an automatic control. That's about good. Alright. So the type of fighter a Mustang is think of a spectrum, okay? On the spectrum you have, all the way on the left side you have turn fighters. All the way on the right side you have boom zoomers. And then straight in the middle you have energy fighters. And then also in between those three, between energy fighting and turn fighting, you have an energy turn fighter, or an energy fighter that's slightly better at turning. And then in between energy fighting and boom zooming, you have an energy fighter that can also boom zoom. So there's basically 3 main turn fight, energy fight, boom zoom, and then in between those there's those two more, which is energy turn and then energy boom zoom. The P51 is an energy boom zoom. Boom zoom first, energy fight second. That's what the Mustang is. Do not try to energy fight anything Japanese or anything Italian. You could get away with energy fighting a G55 or a C202 or a C205, but I wouldn't energy fight an RE. You can also energy fight Focke-Wulfs, and you can also energy fight 109s. But if you come across, say, anything Japanese, I wouldn't bother, and I'd just extend out, gain distance, and then create that distance, and then come back around to take another shot, and then keep your speed up and just, extend out again. Try to keep your altitude. That's how I would fight. That's how you want to fight a Japanese plane. So that's pretty much it. There's no turbo on this thing. There's no supercharger control on the P51s. And that's the Mustangs.